Yo, what is up? Yeah, it is Sean, and today we're talking about Supabase, and this tool has become, one of the most talked about back-end platforms for modern developers. Listen, but with so much noise online, it is not always clear with what it actually does or why teams reach for it. So in this video, I want to break down Supabase in a grounded, technical way. The real features, it offers, why people use it, and who it actually makes sense for in 2026. Listen, but before we get into this video, this is really important. Listen, if you've got a business of your own and you want it spotlighted on this channel, hit me up, DM me, email me, and we can make that happen. But yeah, listen, Supabase is an open source backend as a service, platform built on top of Postgres, one of the most trusted and mature relational databases in the space. Listen, instead of reinventing every backend component, Supabase packages a real Postgres database with authentication, real-time updates, as you can see, storage, auto-generated APIs, and edge functions, all in a unified developer experience, which is really great. I mean, this means that you don't need, to configure, a separate backend server, just to get core backend features working, for example. Listen, at the heart of Supabase is Postgres, like I said, PostgreSQL, a full-featured relational database that supports complex SQL, asks, joins, transactions, indexing, and even advanced extensions, like full text search, for example. And because it is Postgres, you can work with structured data in a way, that scales with your app, and your data simply isn't locked, behind a proprietary format. Listen, each table you create automatically gets a RESTful API endpoint and even GraphQL support without writing backend code yourself. That is huge because it eliminates hours, of backend work. I mean, you define your scheme, and Supabase gives you secure endpoints to interact with, that data immediately. Listen, Supabase also includes a built-in authentication system, like I said, that supports traditional email password logins, magic links, social logins, like Google, for example, GitHub, and token-based sessions, all without needing to wire this up yourself. And more importantly, authentication integrates, directly with your database through row-level security, meaning that access, policies are enforced, at the database level, not just in your app code. And this leads to more reliable permission control, and less risk of, edge cases where, that data gets exposed, unintentionally, stuff like that. Listen, also every table in Supabase instantly generates REST APIs. I mean, and because it is tied to Postgres real-time replication system, I mean, you can subscribe to database changes over web sockets, and that real-time capability lets your application react instantly when underlying data changes, for example, which is perfect for chat apps, dashboards, or some live collaboration tools. Listen, this is not something you have to build piece by piece. I mean, Supabase just handles it for you. Listen, Supabase also includes secure file storage that is tightly integrated with your authentication policies. I mean, you can store images, videos, documents, and much more with access, rules based on user permissions. And that means that, your storage respects, the same security and authentication policies as your main database. And for many products, that handle user content, this removes the need for, a separate file host or any complicated access control logic in general. Listen, and for custom backend logic when it comes to edge functions, listen, Supabase offers edge functions. Like I said, it is a serverless code that runs close to your users with low latency. Listen, these are all great for tasks like webhooks, email processing, for example, scheduled jobs, or any logic, that needs to run outside of simple CRUD operations. Listen, you write them with modern languages like JavaScript, or TypeScript, for example, and Supabase takes care of scaling and deployment at the same time. Listen, when it also comes to pricing, because this is something I want to talk about, listen, Supabase scales with your project. And there is a, generous free tier that is practical for prototyping, and early builds, and usage-based pricing as your app grows. And because the platform tracks things like database size, bandwidth, API calls and function, invocations directly into the dashboard, listen, you get visibility into cost before it becomes a surprise. So listen, because it is open source, you can even self-host the entire stack. If you ever need full control, compliance, or a custom infrastructure setup, no vendor lock-in is needed. But yeah, listen, as you can see, the pro plan is sitting at $25 per month, and the team plan is sitting at $599 per month, which is pretty high. But like I said, the whole platform scales with your project. So yeah, it is all for something, and there's also the enterprise plan, which is custom. Listen, Supabase isn't a no-code playground. It is not, a magic backend generator, where you never think about data models, or security. Listen, it is built for developers, founders, and teams who want, real database, not a black box, an open backend stack, for example, that they can inspect and modify. Real-time capabilities without stitching together services, integrated auth, and storage without separate providers, and edge compute without managing service. In other words, it is for builders, not just users. And in 2026, Supabase occupies a nice space between DIY backends, stacks, and fully abstracted BaaS platforms. Listen, it gives you control where it matters. Your database, your policies, your code, while cutting out a lot of, the repetitive backend boilerplate. So, listen, it is also worth saying that Supabase doesn't, automatically solve every backend challenge. Some teams choose, hybrid setups, using Supabase for core logic and, for example, custom servers, for extremely complex operations. But in most typical web app workflows, MVPs, dashboards, e-commerce backends, collaboration tools, let me tell you that Supabase hits a really nice, sweet spot of power and simplicity at the same time. So, that is Supabase in 2026, a mature, open source backend platform that brings a lot of pieces together, without hiding the mechanics from you. Listen, if you want to build backend services without reinventing, the whole wheel, or keep control instead of, outsourcing everything, Supabase is absolutely worth understanding at the very least. But yeah, listen, that be it from today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, consider leaving a like under this video. It really helps me out a lot, to keep coming back with those projects to you guys. And yeah, this is really important, like I said at the beginning. If you've got a business of your own, and you want to be featured on this channel, email me, or text me on Telegram, for example, and we can make that happen. But yeah, see you guys in the next one, and peace.